Hola a todos, bienvenidos. So we're here today with Tomás Araya, and we're so
What's your
excited.
name?
My name is Ophelia,
And I'm Inti Martinez Aleman.
and we're here at Abogados Cafe, coffee shop in 1053 Dale Street North. But we're super excited today because we're here with the creator of the perspective painting that everybody asks when they come in. So we're super excited to introduce you to Tomás, to share a little bit more about him and how the painting came about. So with further ado,
Yeah, Tomas, we want to hear more about you, your
Alright.
background, your roots, what inspires you, your professional journey, etc.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. This piece was a blast to make. First of all, my name is Tomás Araya. I was born in Chile. I have a master's degree in architecture, which I finished on the year 2015. And then right after that, I came to the US to pursue my dream of being an artist. That's kind of like my backstory. I've always been the kid who draws in school instead of take notes, and I just always had a passion for doing lines and just making concept art. Um, yeah. Do you have any? What was the other questions?
Yeah, like your roots. How did you? So you started, in school drawing, and is that when you realized that you liked arts? Was there an art class that you performed and excelled, or maybe not?
I feel like ever since I learned how to grab a pencil, I knew that it was something I could really sink my teeth into. Because I like, that feeling when like times just disappear sometimes when you're into something, and you don't even notice, and 4 or 5 hours went by. Like that kept happening to me as a little kid. With drawing, with like clay, I love doing clay stuff. So yeah, and then in school, obviously, I was like bored half the time, and half of my notebooks were filled with drawings, and then I had school notes. So yeah, I had like big clues of like what I wanted to do as when I finished my studies, and college or architecture also really helped me with perspective, and then it really helps me to go into my roots as a professional. I have to know what the origins of South America looked like, and when it comes to like urbanism and how society functioned. So starting from those researches, I'm able to. Mostly my art talks about the indigenous cultures of Latin America in a mixed way. I try to portray indigenous people that have multiple traits that define multiple tribes of the continent. It's just my own way of like unifying everyone's looks into something that a lot of people can identify as. And it's definitely fantasy, but I feel like it has helped me heal. Knowing that there's so many people that look like me all over the world and not necessarily were born in the same place. It's just there's something deeper than where you were born. It seems
Tomas,
like.
and you say heal. What is the wound?
So the wound has definitely been being raised in an establishment, like a society where artists or people who have some sort of artistic craving are really limited in terms of like what your options are or what ways there are to make it as an artist. Like it's
and funding
really,
support.
exactly, and so that has really, I feel like it jaded me a little bit when growing up. It was hard to make the decision of becoming a full-time artist for that same reason, because it felt like I was battling an uphill battle, like for no reason. But
and I can't remember if you mentioned it, but do you remember? Did you mention where were you raised? Just the city?
We're in
oh
Chile.
yes, so I
Yeah.
was born in the north of Chile in a city called Arica, And then I went to school in a city called Valparaiso.
Which is further south, right?
Yeah, it's
An affiliate has
closer.
been there.
Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful.
It's
All
closer
the
to the
colors
capital,
of
yeah.
all the houses. Yeah.
It's like a huge maze, colorful maze, where people build their own houses.
Mm.
That's the story of it, and that's why the architecture school started there, because their premise was we have to observe how people build their own space, and from that we study what people look for in architecture. You know, not this cookie cutter rule. It's just our role is to observe how people live, and then create space for that. It has to be like specifically tailored to each and every one of us. You know.
So
is it true that in Valparaiso all the houses are painted different colors because when the Marines came back, in order to identify which was their house, it was like, oh, the blue, mine is the blue, mine is the pink.
That is absolutely true. Yeah,
that's amazing.
When the big ships were coming to the bay, you know, they could recognize their neighborhoods based on the colors, and then that became a thing. And now, when you go and are in a boat looking at the bay, you see this like mosaic of colors. It's really an eye opening, and that's why it was today, or like 10 years ago, it was labeled as one of the modern wonders of the world.
Damn.
Amazing.
That's intense.
Which is, yeah.
Wow.
So what inspired you to use all the colors and you know in the perspective design?
Yeah, of course. Like
Do you wanna?
should we just
stand up?
Sure.
And before we do that, can you tell us, as we remove these chairs, can you tell us more about your studies? You mentioned a master's in architecture, and that journey. Like, that would be very cool to learn, and you know how that helps you with arts today.
Right. So the colors for this, and it's definitely something I grew up with. All the cultures of where I grew up from, the indigenous ones, the Aymaras, Quechuas, Incas, Mapuches, they all like bright colors.
Yeah.
They have this symbol of indigenous people called the Huipala flag, which is pretty much a rainbow flag. And people mistake it sometimes for the LGBTQ parade. Forgot the name of the flag, but it's the same colors, but it's not stripes. It's just like a cubes or
squares.
Yeah.
And Italy has a similar one, right? Multicolor one. And it has some other name.
And it's called the Huipala. It's people can look it up. It's WIPALA.
Okay. Huipala. What
and
language is that?
What
language is the word?
I'm not
Huipala?
sure.
Okay.
I believe it's Quechua.
Okay. We'll look it
But
up.
don't take it with a grain of salt. It could be
Okay.
Mayan too, but I believe it's Quechua.
Might be.
But yeah. So that always gave me a palette, right? Because you go to these places and people's clothes are already filled with color, vibrant colors, and obviously our towns resemble that. Antigua Guatemala, I personally have never been there. But it's one of the cities I fell in love with when I was in school, because they had us do researches of any part of the continent that we liked, and then we had to study, we had to like know people from meet people online, ask them questions, and then use like the new digital tools such as Google Earth to kind of put yourself inside and try to like learn without physically being in there. It's just one of the things I really appreciate about the school that I went to, which was the Catholic University of Valparaiso. They really push the technology, online technology, to work with, because essentially it saves you so much time, you know, and the accuracy of the pictures and then the measuring tools are really good. They're off by like inches. Wow. So yeah, it's impressive. So yeah, Antigua, I've always known. So yeah, why I fell in love with Antigua was because of this volcano. It's the Volcán de Agua, and I've personally never been able to see a green volcano in my life. Where I grew up, where there's so many volcanoes. Chile is a country that has a lot of volcanoes, but they're all either snowy or rocky or just dirt, right? They look like dirt. I've never seen a fully grown like green like how that looks, and that just made me fall in love with it. And honestly, like the big perspective shot is like this is the main road they built when they made the town.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the most memorable piece of the town that everyone
that's
uses as a guide
Arch
stone.
of Santa Catalina, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And can you tell us why did you just the cobblestone street, the inspiration for that?
Well, the inspiration for that was obviously the colors of the land. Where we come from, South America has an incredible richness of the types of minerals and soils they had, and especially where there's volcanoes around, right? Naturally, you find rocks that are so diverse in the tones and like the properties of it.
And it's true also for Central America.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like that is something that comes with being so close to volcanoes, right? Because this right here brings up all the like essential, like all of the rocks in the magma and spews it out, and then eventually they're like scattered over the land. And then when they build roads, they just use local granite. I mean, not granite, the little stone for.
Yeah.
So they just go look for their own local rocks, and it just looks like that. They don't even have to bring it from nowhere else to look like that. It's just the quality of the earth that's so diverse.
What about the planters, in the arches?
Oh yeah, so you can clearly see a mix of colonialism mixed with the indigeneity of the town, because that's actually, we all know that the cultures got mixed. And I believe before the Europeans got here, we didn't used to have planters on windows or arches that were made out of rocks, right? Most of the indigenous people build with adobe and bricks. So you can clearly see the mix of like I try to at least make a contrast between what the people are wearing, the braids and the color of the stone, the color of the huipalas with all the structures that look more colonial. But I did not make it up. It actually looks like that.
Tomás, in the 3+ weeks that you worked on this piece, what was your favorite and least favorite thing about working on it?
So my least favorite, I should say that it's probably the frame. Like I felt like I wanted to keep going. I felt like I wanted to like like it actually took me a little bit to be like, okay, no, it's just here. It ends here. And then my favorite part, honestly, I would have to say is the volcano and the stones, doing the green and this like mixture of terra colors mixed with all the greens here. Like I had a wonderful time. Obviously, like the buildings, I enjoyed it, but in school I had to do so much houses that I don't know. It doesn't feel too special when I make draw houses because I did it for so long. I did too much in college.
I see what you mean.
They had to sketch like hundreds and hundreds of.
You explained to me this in private, but I want you to explain to the audience. Why did you use golden paint on some parts but not in others?
Oh yeah. So this window right here has both these windows. So this room has a really rich diversity of lighting. So I use the metal golden color to replicate how it looks on the town when the sun is setting and when it's rising. It looks really golden. I've never been there, but I've seen, like it's famous for that reason. So I try to replicate that with the metal colors, and at some times of the day when the rays hit this part, it actually shines from some angles of the room. You can see it like coming, like where I'm right now, I guess, yeah, right here I can see the gold a lot. But if I move a little bit, it's more like subtle. So it's something that like an Easter egg. We call it like people find it if they pay attention, you know, and or they can miss it if they don't pay attention. It's personally I like to put Easter eggs like that in my art. But yeah, it was definitely to replicate how the sun shines on the buildings.
Another question we get is, why do you sign Arati?
So Arati is a mix of both my last names, Araya and Biagetti. I just cut them in the middle and then joined them. It's that simple. And I did that because, yeah, like my artistic heritage comes from both sides of the family, and I felt like it wouldn't be fair if I just use one of my last names, you know, where
of course.
and yeah, and then it turns out this word means deep things in Hindu, or yeah, I believe it's Hindu.
Wow.
But I found several meanings, so I don't really know. I don't really know exactly what it means.
Yeah.
And then, but it's funny because people often mistake me for an Indian, Middle Eastern Indian, like the
Pakistani maybe.
They do.
So another question is about more of a comment. So when we've held events here at night, the lighting is completely different and something we didn't realize at the beginning. And at least once we had a dinner here, and we just looked up at this mural, Tomás, and it was such a sombering, mellow, like very moving piece. Completely different than right now, and completely different than 7 or 8 a.m. And it's the same, paint. Can you explain why that happened?
I mean,
as an artist, right?
Yeah, lighting is just something that we as humans or artists will never be able to completely, I feel like, figure it out. What it does to everything, right? Like it makes plants grow. It gives life, literally. So, in school, always like the major problematic in architecture is always light and water. Those are the most, like, if you get those concepts right, then you have a good space. So that happens. I have to assume that because since you have two very strong focuses of light, like this window and that window, I'm thinking that it creates like it overshadows some parts of it. Maybe it looks like that frame maybe projects shadow on the lower part, you know, and then the upper ceiling projects shadow on top, and then maybe you get just one beam that shines on a particular part. I don't know. I would have to see it. I would come to see it.
And we might expand to wine, you know, next year. So evening hours, might be a thing. So what we observed was that this darkness on the top, you can't really. It doesn't really stand out during the day, but at night you feel like this cloudiness, like that darkness is like coming in. It feels like it's night in here, you know. And this light, like it feels like it's all these lights are lighting, you know. And so like it's lit up by the lights, not by the sun or the rays of the sun. So it's just very very fun.
That is interesting.
Anything else you want to share? Any other questions?
No, I think, I mean, I keep telling everybody, Tomás, how I enjoy watching you doing this painting. And it warms my heart when people come in and just, you know, the first thing they see is this. So thank you very much. And thank you for sharing your inspiration.
It's been an honor.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to share? Closing words?
Yeah, so I'm doing a mural. I just started a mural. That's why I look so painty.
Like an artist.
Like an artist.
Yeah.
This time it's on downtown St. Paul.
Okay.
At M Health Fairview building, a new one that they're opening up. So I have to do this reception mural. where I'm also gonna do something like this without the buildings, but it's gonna be nature, a lot of trees and the sky. You know, a nice sunset, and I'm gonna make the Mississippi River. Shot of the Mississippi River, and people just enjoying nature. That is kind of like the theme of my art. That's my inspiration. Is I feel like the elements in nature fuel my creativity. So it just flows that I want to do trees and plants and
excellent
scenery and like that. So
Where can people contact you?
Oh, I have a website. It's www.aratti ARATTI/design.com. And you'll find a lot of my paintings are there. Some of the originals are still available, and prints. And there's a lot of sketches that I share. People like to see sketches, like the process is really important, not just the end result, you know?
Correct.
Yeah, go check it out and send me emails.
We'll share that
For any
in the
questions,
description.
yeah.
So
I do free quotes for anyone that wishes to know how much something like this costs. You should send me like the dimensions of your wall, and we can figure it out.
excellent. Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll be talking and hope to see you soon at Abogados Cafe. Adios. Have a good one.
Oh my God. Oh, we're still alive.